All right, now I get to introduce our first speaker, the wonderful Dr. Richard Johnson. Dr. J, as we like to call him in TPPF, and he's almost as good at basketball as Dr. J, is the director of our Booker T. Washington initiative, which examines the effects of public policy on African American communities. Richard served as chief of staff in both municipal and state legislatures. In fact, as chief of staff for a Houston City Council member, he played a significant role in drafting and navigating policies related to public safety, public works, housing, and community development. He served as president of the Louisiana Prison Chapel Foundation for nearly 2 decades, building more than 20 churches inside prisons in Louisiana. In addition, Richard served as the co-founder, second president of 100 Black Men Metropolitan Houston, the vice president of development for 100 Black Men San Antonio, and co-chair of the education committee for the NAACP Houston. Richard also served in the U.S. Army after college, obtaining the rank of sergeant, and he was selected to play for the All-Army basketball team. See, I told you he was good at basketball. Richard has a doctorate in education administration and a master's in clinical psychology from Texas Southern University, where he might be the newest board of regent at Texas Southern University. And he received a BA in history and government from Wiley College. Please help me welcome Dr. Richard Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Greg. Greg is our fearless leader, and we follow him all the way from here to the winds of wherever, because we know that Greg is going to lead us in the right direction. And first of all, I want to say thank all of you, and God bless your hearts for being here and being a part of what we're doing at Texas Public Policy Foundation. If I have any fellow veterans in the audience, raise your hand. Any first responders? All right, give them a round of applause, would you? All of our first responders, our fellow veterans. And the question is, why are we here? We're here because of the spirit of America and the spirit of greatness. The spirit of greatness in America is freedom. And we enjoy that freedom because we're willing to fight for it. One cannot begin to live until he can rise above the narrow confinements of his own individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Once said by Dr. King, freedom is worth fighting for. Ronald Reagan told us that freedom is not free, and we have never welched in paying the price for freedom, and we will not today. I want to talk to you about educational freedom. Parents have the right to make the choices for their own children. I'm a parent. I have 4 kids. And I look to make the decisions for my kids' education at every corner, simply because I'm going to love them more than anybody else is going to love them. And I want to thank our visionaries, and I want to thank our board, and I want to thank all of my colleagues for engaging in this fight, because we know that in order for us to obtain freedom, we're going to have to fight for it. We're in a fight right now. Education is the new civil rights movement. This is the movement right now, and this is the time to win freedom here in the state of Texas. But in order to do that, we have to understand a few things. And it takes us back to the founding of this great nation. And I remember it being said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And those rights are life, liberty, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Liberty, freedom. But Reagan comes forward, Reagan tells us that liberty, freedom, is only one generation away from extinction. It's not something that you get in a moment and hold it. and then let go and turn your back. You must fight vigilantly for freedom. And as a parent, I'm concerned about what's being taught in our schools today and how it's being taught in our schools today. And I, as a parent and a taxpayer, hold that right to make a decision on where my kids are going to go to school and making sure, because it's my responsibility to make sure that they are placed in the educational system that best meet their needs. And if we don't fight for that, then we cannot say that we stand with the forebearers of this country. We cannot say that we stand for those brave men and women who fought to forge Texas. Because Texas would not be Texas without their sacrifice. And freedom will not stand without yours. So here's the deal. The question becomes whether or not we are going to win this battle. And our forefathers said, no, Lincoln said it. In his Gettysburg Address, Lincoln calls us to remember that we are a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. Lincoln tells us that in his address that if we do not fight and sacrifice, we will lose that bedrock in eternity. But we must understand that government does not run the people run government. With that understanding that the people run government, so when the people speak, the government must listen. Nearly 70% of all Texans have spoken to support parent choice and parent freedom, overwhelmingly. Not just 70% of one group of Texans, 70% of African Americans, 70% of Latinos, 70% of white, 70% of Christians, 70% of every group of America has spoken for freedom in Texas, and the government must listen. But my brothers and sisters here in Christ, I'm first and foremost a Christian, a child of God. My brothers and sisters in Christ, God gives us freedom. No man can take it away. That is an inalienable right. God will look at us in our judgment day and say, how well did you stand up for the generations that came along behind you? How well did you sacrifice for righteousness for your children and your children's children? And I want him to look at me and say, come forward. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You fought well. Because it is the darkness of this world who will swoop in and try to take away and redirect our children. We see it. Gender identity curriculum. You see that sneaking its way into the classrooms. You see divisions. Division by race, sneaking its way into classrooms, trying to devour the gains that we've made in the civil rights movement with the Civil Rights Bill of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. You see it. But my friends and my fellow warriors on the battlefield of life, God will keep our feet in the pathway of righteousness. And we will stand up in the face of tyranny at every corner of this state in every corner of this nation. We will fight until what? God brings freedom to every household and every hamlet. So I prepare to close with this statement. It is because of you and God touching your heart that this movement is sweeping across America. It's because of you and God touching your heart that 30 states right now have school choice. It's because of that spirit in you and God touching your hearts that Texas, this legislative session, will be not maybe the 31st or the 32nd, because I hear Arkansas is on its way, but we're going to beat Arkansas. Am I right? And we're going to win this time. I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because we have a great governor who has heard the voice of the people and is leading this charge in this battle. Because we have a great lieutenant governor who is leading this charge in this battle because he has heard the voice of the people. And my friends, let that wind of freedom that is blowing across this nation swoop so hard into Texas that it sounds the bell of freedom across our state, all the way from the oil fields of West Texas to the cotton fields of East Texas. Let it ring all the way from the northern peak of Texas down to the southern border of Texas. Not only that, let this bell of freedom ring in 5th Ward in Houston, Texas. Let this bell of freedom ring in South Oak Cliff in Dallas. Let this bell of freedom ring in Dunbar or Fort Worth. Let this bell of freedom ring all the way down into San Antonio on Martin Luther King Drive. Let this bell of freedom ring. And when we let it ring, we will join together as brothers and sisters, the coat of many colors, behind the leadership of our great governor and our great lieutenant governor. And the bell of freedom will ring in the House of Representatives to 76 voters that'll punch the clock and say, yes, Texas marching on. We are Texans, and we do everything big. We don't do nothing small in Texas. So we're not going to go for part of a bill, half of a bill. Our governor said we're going for the universal school choice. And just as those brave young Texans fought for our independence, just as those brave young Texans laid down their lives at the Alamo, it is us, all the brave Texans in this room right now, who are putting everything we got into winning this battle. And as the passage says, wait thee on the Lord, and he will renew your strength. And you will mount up with wings as eagles. So those of us who have been fighting this fight for 30 years, I see some of you out here, 20 years, 15 years. God will give us the strength. So in our times of fatigue. We will not get weary, and we will not stop, and we will not retreat. We will forge forward and win this battle. God bless you. God bless Texas. And God bless America.
Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson. Holy smokes.